Hello, everyone! One would think that World War II has already been thoroughly studied, but debates about its events continue even today. Countless real people took part in the battles, each with their own unique story. With today's movie, we'll learn about Vasily Zaitsev, a sniper who fought in the Battle of Stalingrad.
Let's see if our customer has arrived. You ready?
A gray wolf cautiously moves along a snowy forest. It catches wind of some prey nearby. The predator doesn't know that at this moment, a boy points a rifle at it under the guidance of his grandfather.
I have only one bullet. I aim at his eye, very gently.
The animal sprints toward its prey, a tied horse. Grandfather tells Vasily to shoot, but his hands are shaking with fear. The young sniper pulls the trigger. Many years pass, and a grown-up Vasily Zaitsev heads to war. Sitting beside him on the train is a young woman. They exchange glances, but don't muster the courage to talk. At the next station, the civilians get off the train. The soldiers continue their way to Stalingrad, where they must fend off the German troops. It's the fall of 1942. The enemy army is at its strongest, threatening to take over the oil fields in Asia. The train is getting close to its destination. Soldiers are being deployed amidst the chaos of war. The sky is filled with thick, black smoke, and stretchers with wounded soldiers are everywhere. Political officers are shouting into their horns, conveying Stalin's order, not a step back. Zaitsev pushes through his fear, and along with his comrades, dashes towards the ferry to cross the Volga River. The water is filled with countless bodies floating by. In an effort to boost soldiers' morale, the officer reads them a letter from back home. A mother writes to her son, commending his bravery and sacrificing himself for the country. His speech is interrupted by the enemy's attack, and their onslaught continues with shells and machine gun fire raining down, killing numerous soldiers. Filled with panic, the new recruits leap into the water. The commanding officer barks orders to shoot at those attempting to flee. Zaitsev watches the shocking scene unfold before him. Their boat reaches the dock. Vasily finds himself among a large gathering of wounded soldiers. Those who can stand are given rifles, although there aren't enough weapons for everyone. The soldiers are paired up. The first one gets a rifle, while the second is given only ammunition, and they're ordered to stick together and run.
When the one with the rifle gets killed, the one who is following picks up the rifle and shoots.
As luck would have it, Zaitsev doesn't get a rifle. The enemy is firmly entrenched in the ruins of high-rise buildings. Red Army soldiers are sent to charge directly at them. Anyone who turns back will be shot by the barrier troops. With the command to advance, unarmed Vasily and the guy with the rifle are sent into battle, but Vasily's partner is quickly killed and drops his weapon. Zaitsev rushes to get his rifle, but it's picked up by another soldier. The few survivors decide to turn back. They immediately come under fire from the barrier troops. Zaitsev gets stuck somewhere in the war-torn square. The Germans offer the Soviet soldiers to surrender. They promise to treat them better than Stalin does.
You have stolen your land. You have torn your
Out of nowhere, a car suddenly bursts into view. German tanks open fire on the car, causing it to flip over. The man behind the wheel manages to crawl out and seek refuge among lifeless bodies in a dried-up fountain. He narrowly escapes death as enemies move in to finish off the wounded. He then stumbles upon a rifle and takes aim at one of the German soldiers. Just then, he hears a whisper from behind. It's Zaitsev, warning him that gunfire would reveal their hiding spot. Ignoring the advice, the officer attempts to fire, but the rifle fails. Vasily lends a hand, helping the wounded superior load the weapon. He suggests synchronizing the shots with the sound of explosions to avoid detection. The commissar lines up his aim, but hesitates to pull the trigger due to his limited experience and injured arm. He offers the rifle to Zaitsev, and the latter goes to work. Zaitsev takes aim through a small hole in the fountain wall. Peering through, he spots another car approaching, carrying German officers. Zaitsev calmly plans out the sequence of shots, aiming to avoid triggering panic among the enemies. Following a fresh explosion, he skillfully takes out the opponents with accurate headshots. When the final officer realizes what's happening and tries to escape, Vasily comes out from cover and takes him down while standing. Commissar Danilov shakes hands with the private. They manage to get out of the meat grinder, and afterwards, the officer prints leaflets about Zaitsev's feat. They talk about how a simple shepherd from the Urals came to Comrade Stalin's call and single-handedly killed 5 German officers.
I think Comrade Commissar's been overgenerous.
Later, a member of the Politburo, Nikita Khrushchev, arrives in Stalingrad. The pier is crowded with civilians trying to flee from the war-devastated city. Screaming women and old people are pushed away from the boats. Even though Zaitsev's feat was impressive, The attack failed miserably. Khrushchev scolds the defense commander for the defeat and even suggests ending his own life to make up for the shame. He then walks out into the hallway. After the sound of a gunshot, the leader addresses the other commissars. Now it's up to them to defend the city. Stalingrad bears the name of their leader and stands as a special symbol of Soviet strength. Losing the city is not an option. Khrushchev demands a new plan. The soldiers' morale needs a boost. They should be more eager to charge into battle. Someone suggests the usual methods, like shooting the commanders and sending their families to camps. However, Danilov argues for inspiring hope in the soldiers. Rather than the fear of punishment, they should learn to believe that victory is possible. One way of doing it is telling stories of heroes, and Danilov already has one such hero in mind. Khrushchev likes Danilov's idea. The commissar is promoted in rank, and his article about Zaitsev gets highlighted on the front pages of newspapers. Even Stalin will read about their accomplishments over breakfast. Vasily gets transferred to an elite sniper squad. Danilov turns the shooter into a national hero and a prominent figure in the Soviet army. Inspired by the Shepherd story, more volunteers express a desire to join the ranks of snipers. Vasily finds himself on another mission, his mind drifting to the words of his grandfather, who had taught him the art of marksmanship. Just as he did in the woods back then, he carefully aims for the enemy's eye. However, his focus is broken by a young boy, Sasha Filippov, who instantly recognizes the hero from the newspapers. Sasha invites Vasily to his home, along with the other two snipers, Anton and Ludmila. The couple, deeply in love, seizes the brief moments of tranquility to share tender kisses. Sasha's mom warmly greets the soldiers, and the excited boy holds the legendary rifle in his hands. Shortly after dinner, Danilov shows up with letters sent by the fans of Zaitsev from all across the country. It's important to keep the morale high, even in the rear, so Vasily is asked to write them back. To help him out, Danilov dictates the messages. Sometimes it's even necessary, as Zaitsev struggles with certain words. Danilov notices German books on the shelves, and the woman who welcomed them explains that they belong to her neighbor, Tatiana. Just then, Tatiana enters the room, and Zaitsev jumps up from his seat. She's that woman from the train, but now dressed in a military uniform. She seems to recognize the sniper as well.
I recognize you.
Sasha blurts out that he's the hero from the newspapers. Vasily's hopes of Tatiana liking him back start to fade as he sees her reaction. Tatiana, feeling embarrassed, thanks the sniper for his bravery. The woman has been helping the Filippov family for a while, even teaching Sasha to speak German. She learned the language at a university in Moscow. Danilov is obviously intrigued by Tatiana. He continues to dictate the text to Zaitsev, occasionally stealing glances at Tatiana. As news spread, the Russian sniper's reputation reached the high ranks of the German army. The renowned Major Koenig is called upon to go to Stalingrad with a mission to eliminate Zaitsev. The Major devises a plan to personally take down Zaitsev by setting a cunning trap. In the morning, Zaitsev is led to the location where the enemy sniper is positioned. By that time, he has already taken out 5 officers and 2 machine gunners. With impressive precision, Vasily manages to score a direct hit on the enemy's head. The sniper's helmet comes tumbling down from the height of a 3-story building. All that's left to do is for Zaitsev to go up to the enemy's position and retrieve the badge from the body. At this time, Danilov wakes up in the Filippov's house. Tatiana says goodbye to him, but the commissar clearly wants to see the woman again. He takes his time, hoping to persuade her to join his headquarters as a radio operator. Danilov really needs people who can speak German, yet Tatiana declines. Who, if not her, will protect the Filippov family and the rest of Stalingrad, which finds itself right in the middle of the war?
We can take care of that. We'll give you a dozen soldiers for everyone that speaks German.
I'd rather stay and fight.
Danilov explains that serving at HQ is also a real fight, and she'd be far more useful there. His persuasion convinces the woman. In the meantime, Vasily and Ludmila are heading out to find the body of the German sniper. Before they go, the woman kisses Anton goodbye, as he stays behind to provide cover. Just as they leave, Anton spots some movement in the building across the street. He quickly grabs his rifle, but before he can take a shot, the enemy bullet hits him right in the head. Unaware of this, Ludmila and Vasily enter the building. They head up to the 3rd floor, where they discover a mannequin holding a rifle. It was the dummy's helmet that Zaitsev pierced with his shot. Realizing that it's a trap, the soldiers hesitate to move. Vasily spots a still warm cigarette butt on the floor, which means that the enemy is still around. They decide to wait, hoping the sniper will reveal his hiding spot. The situation becomes riskier as German bombers approach. Despite Zaitsev's plea to stay put, Ludmila gets scared and flees. In an instant, Koenig takes her down with a single shot. A bomb hits the building, causing a massive dust cloud to billow up. Using the ensuing chaos to his advantage, Vasily grabs the chance to make his escape. Later, Koenig looks at Zaitsev's pictures in the newspapers. He asks the boy who shines his shoes to translate the article. The boy turns out to be Sasha Filippov.
I've seen that rifle close up.
Have you?
I even touched it. I know him well, Vasily Zaitsev.
The boy doesn't miss the opportunity to get some food for his efforts. He happily tells Koenig everything he knows. Zaitsev blames himself for the death of his comrades. He tells Danilov about the German sniper who lured them into a trap. He is a real professional, capable of anything. The commissar explains that the German sniper has the edge because he's got all the info on Zaitsev from the newspapers. The intel says that the shooter is Major Koenig, the best sniper in Germany, who's been sent to track down Vasily. But the Soviet army also has a trump card, an elderly marksman Kulikov, one of Koenig's students. The veteran knows the techniques of the legendary shooter. and will help Zaitsev take Koenig down. At a ceremonial reception held by Commander Khrushchev, Tatiana compliments Vasily's parade uniform. Reporters barrage him with questions about his past, leaving Vasily little time to respond. Khrushchev leads him to a portrait of Stalin, telling Zaitsev that he now carries the burden of the nation's fate on his shoulders. The leader's stern gaze triggers Vasily's memory of the day when he was hunting the wolf. It turns out, Vasily missed that time, and the wolf attacked the horse. Vasily's grandfather grabbed the rifle and shot the predator, but it was too late for the horse. Sometime later, Kulikov wakes Vasily and leads him somewhere. Together with the third sniper, Volodya, they enter an abandoned building. There, they notice another dead body with a rifle in his hands. It's obvious that it's Koenig's doing, which means that they are on the right track. They have to cross an open area, and the Germans open fire on them. Kulikov falls to the ground, screaming and cursing.
You pants! I just took him off a captain from the 251st yesterday.
Fortunately, he's not injured, and the team continues on their way. Zaitsev cuts the German communication wire with a shot to attract the enemy's attention. They change their position, and Volodya leaves food on the burner. The men manage to reach the opposite side of the building by leaping over the debris. Later, Kulikov recounts how he got picked up by the intelligence service and questioned because of his training in Germany. That's how he ended up losing all of his teeth. Shortly after, a German wireman shows up to repair the damaged wire. With a precise shot, Kulikov takes him down. Volodya is sent to the other side to find some food. There, he's captured by the Germans and taken to Koenig for questioning. Despite the pressure, he doesn't reveal Vasily's hiding spot. They dress him up as a German wireman and let him go to the same path where the previous serviceman was killed. Kulikov unknowingly shoots his fellow soldier, falling for the deception. Koenig now knows where they are hiding, but that's exactly what the Russian snipers needed. Kulikov slowly lifts a helmet in the window to force the German to shoot. At this time, Zaitsev takes aim at Koenig through a gap in the wall, but the experienced major doesn't fall for the trick. Kulikov decides that the Germans simply didn't show up. After leaving their post, Vasily begins to have doubts that the second team member was sent on a mission without some form of backup or follow-up. When the time comes to cross the wrecked floor, Kulikov takes the first leap, but mid-air, he's hit by a bullet in the temple. Vasily watches in horror as another fellow soldier dies in front of his eyes. Khrushchev feels that the duel between Zaitsev and Koenig is dragging on for too long. He lost any hope of defeating Koenig. The commissar visits Tatiana and offers her an expensive fish left over from the banquet. He hopes the gift will win her over, but she doesn't respond to his advances. Tearfully, Tatiana asks him to send her back to the battlefield. She's eager to get back into the fight. Meanwhile, Vasily returns to the headquarters. He's frustrated by the loss of Kulikov. He lost any hope of defeating Kunish.
Shot him on the run. That was an impossible shot. I've never seen anything like it.
Danilov promises that things will be easier from here on out. They have a man who will relay information on all the German snipers' movements. In return, he asks for a favor. The officer wants Vasily to talk to Tatiana and convince her to stay at headquarters. The sniper tries to tell Tatiana that killing people is not an easy business. But Tatiana explains that in the morning she was told that her parents had been killed. The Germans took the prisoners away on a train and then brought them to a bridge. Mothers and daughters, husbands and wives were bound in pairs, lined up, and only one of them was shot. It was the Germans' way of saving ammunition. The bodies of the dead dragged the living to the bottom.
I know they died together. They would have never let themselves be separated.
Tatiana says she's not afraid to look at her enemies through the scope of a rifle. Zaitsev hands her the rifle that once belonged to the late Kulikov. This present is much more to her liking than the fish from Danilov. Meanwhile, Koenig offers Sasha food and chocolate to find out where Zaitsev might show up. The boy tells him about the gutter of the factory, through which the sniper often leaves the shelter. Koenig goes there and takes a position in place of the killed sniper. Zaitsev and his partner also go there through the gutter. The major hears them crawling and waits for them outside. Koenig opens fire and wounds Vasily's partner. Zaitsev quickly finds cover, but loses his rifle in the process. He signals his partner to go back up and call for help. In a bold move, Vasily tries to retrieve his weapon by throwing a knife attached to a rope. Koenig sees this and attempts to stop him. Just as Zaitsev manages to hook his rifle, Koenig fires a precise shot that cuts the rope. The situation takes a grim turn. And to make matters worse, the enemy planes keep bombing the city, shattering the building's mirrored ceiling. A large glass shard lands in front of Vasily, allowing Koenig to finally see his face in the reflection. Meanwhile, at headquarters, Danilov tries to convince Tatiana not to risk her life. He awkwardly hides his feelings by praising her intelligence and education.
Vasily was born to fire a gun, is what he knows. You and I were born for a different purpose.
The woman doesn't have time to reply. She notices the injured sniper and immediately asks about Vasily. Then, she grabs a rifle and sneaks through the gutters towards the factory. Zaitsev and Koenig hear her approaching, and Vasily tells her to keep low. It turns out Zaitsev also spotted Kunish's reflection and knows where he is. Zaitsev asks Tatiana to use a mirror to reflect the sun's glare into the German's eyes and blind him. This plan works, and as Koenig is momentarily blinded, Vasily seizes the opportunity, grabs his rifle and shoots at the major. The shot hits Koenig's hand, injuring him. He retreats and goes back to his quarters. There, he learns from Sasha that Zaitsev is in love with Tatiana. Koenig wonders why Sasha is helping the Germans, and the boy struggles to find the best explanation.
Because they're stronger? Because they're going to win the war?
And because you like chocolate.
At the headquarters, Vasily and Tatiana decide to take a break and relax after the eventful day. The soldiers around them dance and sing, savoring the moment, fully aware that any day could be their last. Zaitsev believes that it's folks with better education than him, like Tatiana and Danilov, that should make it through the war. Curious, Tatiana asks Zaitsev what he's going to do after the victory. Vasily fondly recalls how his grandfather used to take him to the factory where he worked as a supervisor. As a child, Vasily aspired to follow in his grandfather's footsteps. This heartfelt conversation touches Tatiana, and later that night, she approaches Zaitsev. Despite the presence of dozens of sleeping soldiers nearby, they give in to the passion. At this time, Danilov continues to work on another article. He suspects that Tatiana likes Vasily. This is making him feel jealous, and he's slowly starting to feel resentment towards his friend. The next morning, Zaitsev asks Danilov to stop writing articles about him. He once again doubts that he will be able to track down Koenig. He adds that he wants to fight as an ordinary soldier. Danilov realizes that the sniper wishes to join the army to be closer to Tatiana. He never persuaded her to stay at headquarters. But the commissar is not going to take away the symbol of the coming victory from the soldiers, and insists that Zaitsev's mission is too important. He calls Sasha, who shares intel about the yellow dust on Koenig's boots. There's only one place with that kind of dust: the railroad tracks near the chemical plant. Vasily becomes furious that Danilov is using a kid to get intel.
Danilov, you had no right to use him.
The commissar explains that the boy acted on his own accord, and he's determined to do anything for victory. Sasha will tell Koenig that Zaitsev will join the battle at the chemical plant, set for tomorrow. Danilov commands the sniper in a distant manner to follow the order. Early in the morning, Sasha brings Vasily to the location. Zaitsev is worried about the boy, who's been turned into a double agent. He tells Sasha to quit playing such a dangerous game. The sniper positions himself on the ground strewn with lifeless bodies. He patiently waits for Koenig to show up. A fleeting moment reveals the major within his crosshairs as the latter seeks his vantage point. Vasily has waited for too long and now feels overwhelming drowsiness creeping over him. Despite his best efforts to stay awake, he succumbs to sleep. Soviet forces launch an attack, leaving two snipers alone behind the building. There's just a lone German looter with them, sneaking valuables from the deceased. Koenig uses binoculars to scan the area and spots the gleam from Zaitsev's scope. He's about to shoot, but the looter stands between him and his target. He turns Vasily over, taking his wallet. A tired Zaitsev continues to sleep peacefully. Koenig decides not to reveal his position yet. Other German soldiers catch the looter and find Vasily's documents in his possession. This makes the command think that Zaitsev is dead. Koenig disagrees, but he is ordered to get on a plane to Berlin anyway. The Major's fame also makes him an important symbol, and his superiors don't want to put him at risk longer than necessary. Koenig is asked to hand over his dog tag so that his body won't be identified if something happens to him. Along with it, Koenig also places down an award he's got with him, a medal that was given to Koenig's son after his death in Stalingrad. It's pretty obvious that the Major is planning to ignore his orders and finish his duel with Zaitsev. At this time, the Russians intercept a report about Zaitsev's death. Khrushchev is furious, but Danilov insists it's a lie. They tell him to quickly whip up an article with photos of Vasily to prove he's alive and well. But Danilov himself doesn't know where Zaitsev is. So, Danilov calls Tatiana for a chat. He tells her that his family would be happy to take her in after the war, since she has no home anymore. He's just about to confess his feelings for her, but then a German loudspeaker interrupts him. Tatiana is shocked to learn that Vasily Zaitsev is dead. Koenig meets up with Sasha once again. The boy can't hold back his tears over Vasily's death. Koenig tries to comfort him and says it's just propaganda. He believes the sniper is still alive because Koenig hasn't taken him out yet. The German has a hunch that Sasha might be leaking information, so he tells him where he'll be waiting for Zaitsev the next day. He asks Sasha to promise not to tell anyone and to stay home. In the midst of it all, Danilov's already thinking about how to put Vasily's heroic death into words. Right at that moment, the sniper shows up on the doorstep. Zaitsev points out that it's not a hero who's back, but just an average soldier.
The real one. Me. I was asleep, and I missed my chance.
In response, Danilov agrees to transfer him back to his old division as a private. Vasily asks about Tatiana. Sasha, sitting beside him, mentions that he relayed Koenig's words to Tatiana about Zaitsev being alive. He also let Tatiana know that the German officer will be waiting for Zaitsev at the train station, and Tatiana headed there alone. Danilov and Vasily hurry to the station to rescue Tatiana. She manages to evade Koenig's watchful eyes for the moment, but the way she moves is risky as she searches for Vasily. Eventually, Vasily finds her, and they share a kiss, which triggers intense jealousy in Danilov. The Commissar publishes a fresh article, labeling Vasily as a betrayer of communist ideals. Meanwhile, Koenig catches Sasha, assuring him that he bears no grudge for his betrayal.
You've done a very brave thing. You've chosen your camp, I respect that.
Tatiana and Vasily spend the evening together. Vasily remembers how he first saw her on the train and fell in love. He never thought he would have a chance. Suddenly, Tatiana notices something in the distance. She grabs her binoculars and sees Sasha's dead body hanging from a pole. She's shocked and wants to run there to get his body, but Zaitsev steps in and stops her. He realizes that Koenig is trying to lure them into a trap and vows to take care of him once and for all. Tatiana agrees and hurries over to Danilov. Together, they head to Sasha's mom in order to help her leave the city using a special pass. She's determined not to leave without Sasha. Then the Commissar tells her that her son is alive, but has gone over to the enemy's side. Sasha's mom believes him, and Tatiana feels deeply grateful to Danilov for his deception. Sasha's mom holds on to the hope that her son will find someone to protect him. They all rush to the boat, but suddenly, there's a big explosion close by. Tatiana gets badly hurt and passes out. Danilov assumes she's dead and leaves. Yet Sasha's mother refuses to give up on Tatiana. She shows her pass to the doctor and claims that Tatiana is her daughter. As a result, both of them are allowed onto the boat. Just before setting sail, Sasha's mom writes a letter to her son and leaves it on a post. Zaitsev and Koenig face off in a sniper battle right at the station. Danilov shows up, utterly disenchanted with communist ideals. After Tatiana's death, he lost his sense of purpose in life and shares this with Vasily.
She was cut down by shrapnel. It was quick. I don't think she even saw it coming.
Danilov's jealousy no longer clouds his judgment, and he's burdened with guilt towards Zaitsev. He's determined to make a difference and removes his helmet. Despite Vasily's pleas for him to stay down, Danilov is resolute to draw Koenig out of hiding. Standing up, he becomes an easy target, and the German sniper takes him down with a precise headshot. Zaitsev sees where the shot came from, but keeps his cool, patiently awaiting Koenig to reveal himself. Several hours later, Koenig assumes he's successfully taken out Vasily and cautiously steps out to check. Zaitsev changes his position, catching the enemy off guard. As Koenig understands there's no escape, he takes off his hat as a sign of respect to his adversary. Vasily concludes their duel once and for all. He retrieves the renowned major's rifle and gently lays it in the hands of his fallen comrade. After a couple of months, the Germans surrender. Vasily gets a letter from Tatiana with her hospital address. He finds her, and the two lovers reunite after being apart for a long time. Sniper Vasily Zaitsev was a real person who received several orders of Lenin and was honored with the title of Hero of the Soviet Union. His rifle is still on display at a military history museum. While the movie portrays Zaitsev as a near-illiterate person, he was actually well-educated. Before the war, he spent 5 years working as an accountant in the Soviet Pacific Ocean Fleet. Ludmila's character in the movie might be a nod to another well-known Soviet sniper, Ludmila Pavlichenko. The Stalingrad set design took nearly 5 months to complete, and another 5 was spent on crafting the artificial soldier bodies. At the time of its release, the film held the record for being the most expensive British movie ever produced. Following the premiere in Russia, some veterans of the Battle of Stalingrad were so upset by the historical inaccuracies in the movie that they even called for it to be banned. As always, check out the movie name in the description below. In the meantime, tell us in the comments, what are your favorite war movies? Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button to see even more cool recaps.